Hello everyone, what's happening? You're here with me, Dave, on the Empire, and this week we're going to have a look at something a little bit different from our friends at Samsung. We're actually looking at a port replicator or a desktop experience with the Samsung Dex. Okay, so the Samsung Dex is a small device which sits on your desktop and turns your mobile phone into a desktop-like device. So you do need to have a Samsung device like an S8 or an S9. It supports the S8, S8 Plus, the Note 8, or the S9 or the S9 Plus, and a couple other variants on the S-Line model. But it has to be one of the S8 or S9 devices at its heart for it to be able to support this. I actually did try and jam my S3 tablet in here and it just ignored it completely. What it does is it takes all of the stuff that's on your phone as it is today and puts it onto a big screen. Now that sounds like the kind of thing that anything could do, but a lot of what it does is shaped by the experience that you get, and that's why it's not a desktop copier, it's a desktop experience. It changes things because obviously you look at your mobile phone in a sort of a vertical alignment and you do that and everything looks really big and clunky and strange. This actually makes it nice, but rather than me sort of try and tell you about it, why don't I just show you? So here I have my own S8, which I have been using for a long time now, and it's great. And I've just turned on a monitor and I literally take this and slot it in like that to the USB-C charging port on the bottom of this replicator, and there you are, the Samsung Dex. It just starts working on the screen that I have output it to. Now the other thing that I've done here is I have connected up a wireless keyboard and mouse combo, and also, because I think I can, I've hooked up an Xbox 360 wireless control pad. Now it'd be interesting to see whether or not this actually works, because I haven't tested this one yet. I'm using one of the new Windows 10 wireless remotes, but even if this doesn't work, I should be able to go get a control pad and connect it up via Bluetooth, which I might actually go and do because that might work better. Alright, so I did actually go and have a little play with the controller, and it turns out that you cannot put the Xbox or Windows 10 wireless receiver dongle in here, but if you have a modern Xbox One controller, so that's the one with the 3.5mm jack built in, you can actually just pair it up to the device with Bluetooth directly. So once you have plugged in your phone into the Dex, it has a power cable, a HDMI port, and 2 USB connectors. One of those USB connectors has my mouse and keyboard plugged into it, and I'm just going to sort of do a couple of wee things here, which you can't really see me doing. Well, you can see me doing. I can't really see me doing because it's all at my side. It presents you with a full desktop. You can see it here in front of me, but if you tap on the apps in the bottom left-hand corner, much in the same place that you would find a Windows key, you get access to all of the apps that you use. And if you tap on the app, it's presented in a mobile frame if it is not an app that is fully compatible with DeX. However, if you run games through the game launcher or other Samsung applications that are provided with your S device, it does actually allow you to run games in full screen mode. So for example, here I am actually running the original Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, but in full screen on a desktop experience, and the same could be said for any device that you add into the game launcher. And that's really cool because it means that you have, well, you've got heaps of opportunity around the type of game that you want to play. I mean, if you think about it, most modern Android devices can quite happily support games and other types of experiences all the way up to PlayStation 1. You know, I mean, if you think of any kind of classic gaming is basically a emulator and a licensed copy of the software that you would be running on it away. And yeah, I managed to say that with a straight face. But of course, your entire experience is not going to be around gaming, or, you know, it might be, I don't know. but it shouldn't be, because this is not a replacement for a proper gaming device. So where I see this being useful is in an office environment, or like in a home office, for example, or in fact if you have a requirement to be able to do everything through your mobile device and you want a more traditional view on that, that is app-based and does a lot of cool stuff, then this is an excellent choice because it really does bridge that gap tremendously well. The DeX piece itself, it's not just a simple display output to a monitor. It is an entirely different experience, and it does align very closely with a traditional desktop experience, and that is really commendable. I mean, for example, here, if I just fire up the Chrome browser, then I can set that to view the desktop pages of any website that I want to surf, and it is, for the most part, fairly indistinguishable from using a desktop Chrome browser. That's quite a triumph, if I'm honest. Some other things that I found just tremendously cool is it has a great range of support for things like virtual machines and Citrix. Now, you may wonder what the heck I'm going on about, and that would be fair enough, but for example, if you are familiar with things like Amazon Web Services and the ability to run virtual machines in the cloud, you can actually quite easily set up a virtual machine in an AWS domain of your choice and actually have it stream to this, and the output through a monitor with a keyboard and mouse. You can start to run a lot of your process heavy applications that you would expect from a more traditional desktop. In fact, there are even some services that Samsung have aligned with to be able to set up and configure and manage that for you on your behalf as a service. It's quite an interesting offering. And of course, if you look at some of the services out there, there are similar offerings that you can acquire via the internet. So if that is something that interests you, then you should absolutely be looking at one of these. I did actually, a few years back, invest specifically in the NVIDIA Shield to be able to do something very similar to this, because it was able to use NVIDIA's game stream capability. Now that that is unlocked, and this allows me to have this and a large screen wherever I have a screen in my house, it's brilliant. It's really, really cool. And it's obviously performance varies based on how close you are to the access point, and the computer that's serving up your stream should be hardwired. You've got all the usual caveats, but the simple fact is I never imagined a world in which I would be able to play Rise of the Tomb Raider on a phone. Okay, so I've talked about the pros on this so far, but I haven't really talked about the cons yet, and there are a few cons. It's not perfect. It doesn't do audio out particularly well on a monitor. I've had trouble getting it to work through that. It really doesn't. You can plug in some headphones through the 3.5mm jack here, or you can do Bluetooth. There are options and things that you can do to get around it, but it might not work in your particular situation. The other thing I found is with the two USB ports at the back, I plugged in my Logitech Pro keyboard with RGB backlighting and it didn't work. It appears that it's because there's not enough power going through the USB bus in the DeX to be able to appropriately power the keyboard. I got around this by loading it up to a powered 4-port USB hub, and it worked fine then. So it was able to interpret the input and everything worked as you would expect it to. But if you plug it directly into this, it might not work for you. So that's another thing, consumer beware type thing. On the whole, I've found my time with the Samsung Dex to be really cool. In fact, because I have an S8, I am probably going to buy one of these myself, because I do think that the versatility and the options for it allow me to get rid of about 3 other devices that serve one purpose, whereas now this and the the S8 and the Dex now serve many purposes for me, and that's very cool. So in that respect, I'm going to give this an 8.2 out of 10. It is not perfect, it does not completely replace a powerful traditional desktop for all tasks. However, it does do a great job of bridging the gap between mobile and the desktop world, and giving you access to all of the apps and things that you expect to have in a good way on a mobile device, but delivering them in a manner consistent with a desktop experience. So for that reason, it gets the 8.2, and I am going to pick one of these up. So thanks very much for listening, and stay with us here on The Empire to see more video games and technology reviews. And of course, don't forget to check us out on Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, all the usual channels. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Do leave a comment. And of course, if you have not already, please subscribe to the channel. Thanks very much. This was Dave. See ya.